So right now, the Sony WH-1000XM6s and the Sony 1000XM5s have the best performing active noise cancellation on the market, and thanks to their atmospheric pressure sensors, their active noise cancellation is much more effective than the active noise cancellation that you'll find on other ANC headphones out there while at cruising altitude. However, Sony's headphones might not be the most adorable or the most luxurious things out there, so today we're going to compare them to the Wilkins PX7 S3s, which look great and they sound great as well. Regarding pricing, the Wilkins PX7 S3s have a retail price of $470, which is a lot, but they're already going on sale for $430, and thanks to their build quality, I'd say they're worth it. Whereas the Sony 1000XM6s have a retail price of $450, and the XM5s have a retail price of $400, but these can be found on sale as well. So if you want to pick any of these headphones up, they'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button, and if you want to further support the channel, then you can always watch some of the related videos in the description down below. So first, let's talk about these cases. Since the PX7 S3s have a lay-flat design to them, their case does have a larger footprint to them. However, I still feel that this case is manageable if you plan on traveling with these headphones. Whereas with the XM5s, these headphones also only have a lay-flat design to them, so their case is noticeably larger. And even though the ANC on the XM5s is very good, for me it is very hard to justify traveling with these headphones because their case is just way too big. Whereas with the Sony 1000XM6s, since these headphones have a fully collapsible design to them, their case is smaller and much more manageable. Now, yes, the PX7 S3's case does feel more premium and durable, but the XM6's case is good enough. But with the cases out of the way, let's talk about the headphones themselves. Now, with all of these headphones, these ear cups pivot and swivel a good amount, so they're going to be able to rest very naturally on your head. All of these headbands glide in and out, but like I've said before, I prefer when my headbands click because it's just easier to find your fit when you take them out of their case. However, the gliding action on the PX7 S3s just feels much sturdier than these other two headphones, especially the XM5s, because these do have a little bit of a wobble. And overall, the PX7 S3s does have much better build quality, and they're using much more premium materials. With both of Sony's headphones, they're using recycled plastics, and the leatherette on these headphones feels like soft touch silicone, but with less grip to it. Whereas with the PX7 S3s, these have a real leather that gets softer over time, and a lot of their surface areas are covered in fabric, and the headband arms are machined metal, which not only look good, they're also more durable, because Sony's headphones do have a reputation of breaking at the hinges. Now, none of my Sony headphones have ever broken at the hinges, but I do feel that I should at least warn you about that. However, when it comes to fit, the PX7 S3s fit okay, but they might not be for everyone. For starters, when it comes to clamping force, the PX7 S3s can be a little on the tighter side, even after being broken in. So to be safe, I would not say that these are big head approved. Whereas with both of Sony's headphones, both of these headphones have a less clamping force and they are big head approved, but they have a neutral amount of clamping force. If you're looking for something with a looser fit, then you'll want to go with Bose's headphones. But then there's the headband on these headphones. Now, one of my biggest issues with the XM5s is that their headband is very thin, so it has very little surface area and it has very little padding. So for me, hotspots can be an issue with these headphones. Whereas with the XM6s, this headband has a larger surface area and it has more padding, so hotspots aren't as big of an issue. And the PX7 S3's headband has even more surface area, but its padding is a little stiffer. But then there are the ear pads on these headphones. Now, the ear pads on the XM5s have a large diameter to them, but they can be a little shallow for people with average size ears or with ears that stick out a lot. Whereas with the XM6s, these ear pads are a little deeper, so they are a little more spacious. But then there are the PX7 S3s, which are even more spacious than the XM6s. However, with the PX7 S3s, since these have more padding coming in contact with your skin, these ear pads can heat up faster than both of Sony's ear pads. And finally, there's their weight. The Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s weigh in at 300 grams, which isn't bad, especially given their improved build quality and materials. But Sony's headphones are much lighter by comparison, because the XM6s weigh in at 254 grams, and the XM5s weigh in at 250 grams. So both of Sony's headphones, these are just going to be less noticeable when you're walking around with them on, and they're easier to forget that you're wearing them when you're sitting at your desk or laying in bed or while you're flying with these headphones. So overall, the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s have improved the build quality and they're using more premium materials than both of Sony's headphones. And looks-wise, I think the PX7 S3s look great. Whereas the XM6s have a more subtle design to them and the XM5s do look pretty bulbous. However, the PX7 S3s aren't as comfortable as the XM6s because they do weigh noticeably more, they have a tighter fit to them, and their ear pads can get warmer much faster. I think the PX7 S3s are going to be better suited for someone with a smaller head, whereas the XM6s will be able to fit more people comfortably. But now let's talk about tech specs. When it comes to battery life, all of these headphones have an advertised battery life of 30 hours with the active noise cancellation turned on, which is a little above average, and you can always extend their battery life by using them with their active noise cancellation turned off, which is usually what I do. All of these headphones also charge via a USB-C port, as they should, but with the PX7 S3s, you can also use this USB-C port as a wired connection if you want, making them a good option if you plan on gaming with these headphones. But with both the PX7 S3s and the XM6s, you can use them while they're charging as well. Now, with all of these headphones, you can also still use them with an audio jack connection, but with the PX7 S3s, you have to use them with their USB-C to audio jack cable, whereas with both of Sony's headphones, they have your standard audio jack, and you can use them passively, which I feel is a big deal for travelers or for content creators. Whereas with the PX7 S3s, even if you want to use them with an audio jack connection, they still have to be powered on. But when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, all of these headphones can be connected to any two Bluetooth devices at the same time, regardless of ecosystem, making them a great option for any power user that might want to hot swap between a PC or an iPhone on a regular basis. And latency is not an issue for any of these headphones, so you can use them to watch videos with on your phone. And when it comes to audio codecs, all of these headphones have support for SPC and AAC. Duh! But the Sony have support for LDAC, which is Sony's high-res audio codec, whereas the PX7 S3s have support for, hold on, because these really like aptX, they have support for aptX Classic, aptX HD, aptX Adaptive, and aptX Lossless. But in order to use any of these higher quality audio codecs, you do have to be an Android user because iPhones top out at AAC, but regardless, all of these headphones sound great with AAC. You don't have to freak out and think, oh, in order to get the best sound quality out of these headphones, I have to use one of these higher quality audio codecs. They're just nice to have. But wait, if you're actually going to charge all of this stuff, then check out our partners over at Anker. They've got a ton of battery banks and chargers, and personally, I've been using this new 7-in-1 charging station from Anker. Now, personally, I really like this charging base because it has two built-in USB-C cables which retract, and you can use them to either charge small devices like your earbuds, or you can even use them to charge your larger devices like your iPad or MacBook. There's an additional USB-C port, so you can plug in an additional cable, and there's also a USB-A port if you've got any older devices that are using a USB-A cable. Plus on the back, you've got an additional three-prong AC ports, so you can plug in any of your other devices, and this base also has a built-in screen, so you can see how much power it's putting out. You can also see how much power each device is taking, and you can even get temp readouts just to be safe. Honestly, this charging base does save me a lot of clutter here in the studio, because I have a lot of devices that just constantly need to be charged. So if you want to pick this charging base up, it'll be linked down below, or you can always press on the YouTube shopping button. And I'm also going to keep a coupon code in the pinned comment down below so that I can get you an extra discount. But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these headphones. And while I feel that the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3 sound like an improved version of the Sony WH-1000XM6s, but with more resonance and kick in their bass. Ever since the Sony WH-1000XM5s came out, Sony has been trying to improve the instrument separation on their headphones. So both the XM5s and XM6s sound more open than Sony's mid-tier and older headphones. But what the XM5s and XM6s have been lacking is a resonance in their bass. Whereas with the PX7 S3s, they also have good instrument separation and they also have really good detail in the highs. But with these, they also have a lot more resonance in their bass. And if you're someone that likes a lot of kick in their bass, then the PX7 S3s can deliver on that better than Sony's headphones, because these also have more kick in their bass. So I think all of these headphones are going to be good people pleasers, but for the most part, with the PX7 S3s, you are going to get a richer listening experience because the bass on these headphones just comes in harder than Sony's headphones. Now, when it comes to the media controls on these headphones, both of Sony's headphones have the same touchpads. They work well and they're easy enough to use, so you can swipe front or back to skip through your music, you can tap to play and pause, and you can swipe up and down to adjust your volume. And if you were to swipe and hold, you can continuously raise and lower your volume. But with the PX7 S3s, these are just using physical buttons, so these buttons just work. And having these physical buttons lends themselves to the overall design language of these headphones. Analog is just better. However, all of these headphones still have wear sensors, so whenever you take these headphones off, they'll automatically pause your music, and when you put them back on, they'll start playing your music again. And something about the PX7 S3s is that their wear sensors actually react super fast. But now, like I mentioned in the past, I don't really care for wear sensors on my headphones, so I usually just turn them off, but they're there if you want them. Now, when it comes to the active noise cancellation on these headphones, well, I just hope that active noise cancellation isn't very important to you, because the ANC on the PX7 S3s performs like the ANC that you'll find on a pair of mid-tier ANC headphones. Not premium ANC headphones like these are priced at, but so that you can see for yourself, we're going to go ahead and jump into an ANC test. So, like you have just seen, both the Sony WH-1000XM6s and the Sony WH-1000XM5s block out way more noise than the PX7 S3s. It's not even close. The ANC on the PX7 S3s is more like a pair of mid-tier ANC headphones, like let's say the Sony Ultimate. The ANC on the PX7 S3s is going to be useful on a bus ride commute because they block out some lower frequency sounds like road noise, but they really struggle when it comes to blocking out chatter. But then there's also the atmospheric pressure sensor on both of Sony's headphones, which allow these headphones to block out way more noise than the PX7 S3s while at cruising altitude. So, plainly said, if active noise cancellation is very important to you, or if you plan on flying a lot with your headphones, then you simply want to go with either of Sony's headphones. And yes, the Sony WH-1000XM6s do block out noticeably more noise than the Sony WH-1000XM5s, which I do feel is rather impressive. But then there's the ambient mode on these headphones. Now, the ambient mode on the PX7 S3 sounds good enough to get the job done, but the ambient mode on both of Sony's headphones sounds more natural, and more importantly, their microphone array does a much better job of rejecting wind noise when walking outdoors. But also, Sony's ambient mode does have a few features over the PX7 S3s. For starters, with these Sony's headphones, they do have speak to chat, which works like this. Hello there. So this is speak to chat. Basically, when you start talking, these headphones will automatically lower the volume of your music, and they'll automatically pump in all of the ambient sound around you so that you can quickly talk to someone without even to have to touch these headphones themselves. Now, these headphones will stay in this state for a preset determined amount of time, or you can always adjust that through their app, or you can always manually cancel speak to chat by double tapping on the touchpad like this. Personally, I still prefer to use quick attention on these headphones because it's a lot more intentional. When you fully cover the touchpad on these headphones, they're going to lower the volume of your music and pump in all of the ambient sound around you like this. And when you let go, the headphones will go back to normal again. Now, like I said, I prefer quick attention because it's a lot more intentional, and this feature is extremely useful when you're flying with these headphones. But I still feel that Sony should change it so that when you have their touchpad covered for 5 seconds or more, they should lock themselves in this state so that you can let go, because keeping your arm up like this does get uncomfortable and awkward after a while, and this is something that they can easily change through a software update, but they just haven't. But regardless, I'm glad that Sony has this feature because this is something that the PX7 S3 simply don't have, and this is a pretty standard feature on premium and mid-tier ANC headphones. But finally, here's the microphone test. Now, even though I really like the Sony WH-1000XM6s, and these are the best headphones to fly with because they block out the most amount of noise, their microphone does need work. Now, the mic on both of the Sony WH-1000XM6s and the Sony WH-1000XM5s are good enough to take phone calls with while in a quiet room, but I'm actually surprised that the mic on the Sony WH-1000XM5s outperforms the mic found on the Sony WH-1000XM6s. Now, the mic on the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s also sounds good while in a quiet room, and I would say that this mic performs better than the mic found on the Sony WH-1000XM6s. Because when it comes to blocking out noise pollution, the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s are doing a good job of reducing all of this road noise. However, the Sony WH-1000XM5s are doing an even better job of reducing all of this road noise, because for comparison's sake, if we were to switch over to my lapel microphone, you're going to clearly hear all of this road noise, but if we were to switch back over to the Sony WH-1000XM5s, it is reduced, and personally, I am surprised that the Sony XM5s outperform the Sony XM6s here. Because with the Sony WH-1000XM6s, even though they have 6 beamforming mics versus the 4 beamforming mics found on the XM5s, these do struggle when it comes to blocking out this noise pollution, and I feel the PX7 S3s do a better job than the Sony XM6s. And it's the same thing when it comes to blocking out chatter. These are just letting in a lot of noise pollution, and there's a lot of interference going on with my voice. Whereas with the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s, these are doing a better job with all of this noise pollution, with less interference going on with my voice when compared to the Sony 1000XM6s. And finally, here are the Sony WH-1000XM5s, which I feel are doing the best job here of dealing with all of this noise pollution. Because again, for comparison's sake, if we were to switch over to my lapel microphone, you're going to clearly hear all of this chatter. But if we were to switch back over to the Sony 1000XM5s, it is really reduced. So, overall, the mic on the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s is surprisingly good, but the mic on the Sony 1000XM5s is better, and I feel that the mic on the Sony 1000XM6s still needs work, and that's very surprising to me compared to the XM5s. But with all that being said, both the Sony 1000XM6s and the Sony 1000XM5s are going to offer you much better active noise cancellation, a better sounding ambient mode, more features, and they are more comfortable than the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3s because they are lighter and they have less clamping force. Simply put, if you plan on flying a lot with the headphones, then the Sony 1000XM6s are the way to go because they do block out the most amount of noise, plus they also have a smaller case. Now, the Sony 1000XM5s also block out more noise than the PX7 S3s, but their case is pretty big. But where the PX7 S3 stand out here is that they do have better build quality and they are using finer materials than Sony's headphones. The PX7 S3s are meant to last and they stand out, and they also sound a little better than Sony's headphones because they do have more bass while still having that great instrument separation found on the Sony WH-1000XM6s. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.